Step 1 is find out where you want to put it.
Yep.
Step 2 is wire.
There's a few steps in between that, but yes. Yeah, I think it's close enough to fitting that it's worth sacrificing the glove box.
Yeah.
I think so, because no matter how big of a bench you've got, you're always going to run out of bench, but you're never going to run out of floor, are you? I do quite, I'm pretty good at it.
That's my baby right there, damn. Just looking a bit sad, but isn't it? Shit, but you know, doesn't look sad on my fresh new G-Up jumper. And you can get yours by jumping on the SRS website, and you've got until Sunday night, 12 AM to secure yours. Otherwise, gone, no more to be done. The next ones will be different. So 12 AM, Sunday night, done. But make sure you jump on the website to grab your sick G-Up jumper so you can support G-Up when he's at the track. This is a spark plug from Goku. So anyone that does order a jumper, either the big deal or a G-Up one, 5, hey?
Or caramel.
Or caramel. Milky lad, I don't know, how do you want it? But anyway, anyone that does do a pre-order, we're gonna chuck a spark plug in 5 lucky winners orders. So that's what you'll get. It's a spark plug from Goku, roll racing winner Goku 32. So yeah, 5 lucky winners. Make sure you get your order in and let's get it.
Don't miss out.
Don't miss out. Like, comment, subscribe as well. Don't forget.
Do it all.
Get ya.
Back to gym.
Yeah, back to gym. Look at that. Oof.
So here, look at me. I'm going to start doing the spicy wiring, the exciting wiring, very soon. But I think the last thing that I showed you was we were doing the radiator and I was doing the fuse box relocation. I don't think I've actually showed you that it works yet. So not right now, but very soon it works. I know that it works, but I can't show you that it works because I had to pull it back apart. I jerry-rigged it to work to know that it would work and then continued with it, okay? So I can't show you that it works right now, but we'll travel forward and then you can...
We have to just trust.
You have to trust me that it works.
That it works.
Trust me. No, I'll show you. I'll show you that it works.
Doesn't work.
It does. I'll show you that it works, but not right now. Once I've got the battery actually mounted and the actual cables ran, then I'll show you that stuff. But for now, I'm trying to mount the ECU. It's gonna be a bit of a pain because when we normally put them up under the dashboard, this car is retaining the factory heater and aircon. So up under the dashboard, there is a lot of things and there's not much space for a big old Nexus. Basically trying to find a space where I can put it up under there. It's probably gonna be behind the glove box, and then like the back of the glove box will just have to be cut off. So it'll just be like a lid, not actually a storage compartment, if that makes sense. But pretty much gonna get the harness out, plug it into the ECU, try and sort of route it so it's nice and tight to the ECU, and then try and find a spot where it fits, make a mounting plate, and then we'll go from there. But step 1 is to try and fit it somewhere. Gonna go in here somewhere.
So you put the dash in?
That's it. Yeah, I put the dash in, got it first try too. Didn't take 3 goes, that's for sure. Sometimes I wish you didn't exist.
Yeah, that's most of the time for you, from what I can tell. We'll go to the other side, because you're in the way. Steering wheel?
Fucking steering wheel. Just didn't have a windscreen. Low key. Just like that.
You got it. You got it. You got it. You might snap off the indicator arm, but you got it.
I haven't touched the indicator arm.
Not yet. You're about to. Oh, there it is. I haven't touched the indicator arm.
I said yet. Can't even get it back out.
Easy dash install.
Way easier without a windscreen, I'm not gonna lie to you. Don't count your chickens before they're hatched.
I've got the 3 chickens.
Don't?
They're all hatched.
Oh, well then, that's not what I said, was it?
I don't have any unhatched chickens. I have eggs, but they're
what
not.
The fuck?
They're not fertilized. Don't have a rooster.
Don't have a rooster. Thank you. That's so helpful. I'm about to take the fucking indicator stores. They want to keep messing about.
Take your time.
I don't like you.
First time.
First time putting the dash in. Definitely isn't the 3rd or 4th try.
Well, that was easy.
Still not in yet. Did that last time, remember? Cool! It's a car! It's gonna go right there, Duran.
Leave your leg.
Do you want some torch? Do you want me to do your whole job for you?
Yeah.
Wow!
Where will I put my gloves?
In the ashtray.
Where will I put my ash?
In the head unit.
Gotcha.
Basically there is what I'm thinking, but the only problem with that is there's not much. That's the problem.
There is not much. And there's no other
I think
options of places to potentially put it?
Just a couple techies.
Yeah.
I think Mitchell would love that, personally.
That?
I think he'd be into that.
It's really...
Just right above his Silvia S14 turbo badge. I think it'd look hot.
It's really...
2 tech screws. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. OEM?
Bit of Sikaflex to the windscreen, maybe? Ooh. The roof is on fire. What if we use it as one of the fucking... What are they called? Sun visors.
Oh, sun visor, yeah.
It's a good idea. Now we're getting somewhere.
Exactly.
We could sell this.
So step 1 is find out where you want to put it.
Yep.
Step 2 is wire.
There's a few steps in between that, but yes. Yeah.
That's what my big brain...
There's just 2 steps. Step 1, mount. Step 2, wire. I mean, you're not wrong.
Your job's easy, Sam.
Oh, you bought me coffee and donut. Thank you so much. What is it?
It's a mocha.
What's the...
It's a jam donut.
Wow, you want to buy it?
No, I had to kick out.
Thank you.
Oh, look who it is.
Big red bitch. Yeah.
What do you mean? The white wrap?
Flat out right now.
It's like a Starbucks and donuts. Are you kidding me?
Excuse me. There's only one. Where is it? What donut? I think it's close enough to fitting that it's worth sacrificing the glove box.
Yeah. So what, you're just going to cut the back of it out?
Yeah.
So it's just the front?
Yeah. It's just a front. Like you. Big dog. Big dog, little bite. Rum. Rum, rum. Rum, rum. I don't want to put it in. I don't want to put it under the floor.
It's a dumb option.
It looks way better in there.
It looks sick.
And then I'll probably do like I'll make like this a whole panel, so that like when you open it, it's just like.
Yeah.
I mean, I also have to make a mount for it. It's currently just zip tied, so I have to be able to replicate where it's sitting with a mount is also half the drama.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'll get a pen. All right. I mean, we're just doing roughies here. About there. This is just the rough cut, you know.
We just trim and then we trim and trim.
We trim until it fits, and then we do the tidy up cut. Do it in my hands or what?
I think we're good.
Hell yeah.
We don't need that.
We don't need that. We don't need that where we're going. Looks good, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it works, it works. But
Yeah, well, that's the problem is we don't know if it doesn't work.
Glue.
very good.
Yeah, well, we can just glue it back in. That's true. We just super glue it. It's only one cut.
Heat welder, yeah.
Yeah, could do.
Easy.
You seen those little stitches that you like heat up in a gun? Yeah, they're cool. Eh? It already hits. What the fuck is it hitting on?
A bit wider.
You just don't have it in there properly.
Yeah, I'm just an idiot. He was right.
You didn't have it in there properly?
Yeah, I was just an idiot, yeah.
You can suss it out.
I was just testing it.
Yeah, you can lift it up. Yeah. Okay. Oh.
Oh! Chupapi Munyenyo.
You gonna be working?
Yeah. All day.
See?
Oh, Nexus! Oh, we got to cut a bit more though.
And room for gloves.
Yeah, we got to cut a little bit more.
A bit more over there.
And room for gloves. He didn't believe.
We crushed it.
No faith. No faith.
And then if you
See, this is what happens when I do it.
where it's coming through,
Yeah, over there, isn't it?
that side.
That's where you wanted it.
Yeah, so you have to still a big collection.
I don't know yet.
I want it to look neat, but it's got to...
Goes to the dentist for 6 hours, the dentist, and then just turns up barking orders. Put like a half moon in here for the cables to like slip through.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Cool.
Actually, it's probably gonna have to be more than a half moon because it's probably gonna have to be more like a slot because they need to be able to go, you know what I mean? These cables,
Yes.
the battery cables have to run that way.
Yeah.
So they need to be able to, so I need to put like just a slot on that side
Makes sense.
so that they can go whoop, 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 whoop. But that's nice. Now all I gotta do is actually mount it in there, not just zip tie it. I'm going to mark center of this plate. I'm going to bolt the ECU to it. I'm going to set it in the center. I'm going to mark these 2 holes because there's already 2 holes here to drill. I'm going to drill them. I'm going to put riv nuts in this. Then I'm going to bolt this plate to that. Then I'm going to put my P clamps up, which are going to go off of the dash bar, which is then going to grab onto these mounts. Then I'll mark those holes. I'll drill those holes. I'll cut those shorter. Then it'll essentially be in there.
There you go.
Hey, yeah, mate, my 4 fingers fit on both sides, so that means it's in the center.
That's how you do it.
You say 1 finger? Better make it 4.
What? Now, don't be alarmed. This hole won't be in the middle of that big black dot. The big black dot was in the wrong spot. Okay, rude. Why would you figure that? Eh?
Because you said don't be alarmed. The hole's
Yeah,
not
right.
going to be in the middle of the big black dot.
And you said figured as much.
Figured as much.
As if, like, that was normal for me
Yes.
to do things wrong. Where's the 9mm? 8mm. I just want a 9mm. What happened to that one?
Can't help you.
Bet that used to be a 9. Where's the rest of it? Dane. Barter. Yeah, you give me a 9mm drill bit, I'll help you.
I snapped it. Just
Yeah, I know. That's what I just said. I was like, I bet that used to be a 9mm.
Yeah, I broke it.
So what this is called a riv nut or rivet nut, if you want to be weird.
Yeah.
Riv nut. So what it is, basically, it works the same. It acts on the same principle as a rivet. So basically, can you see it? Works on the same principle as a rivet. So you basically put this into your riv nut gun. It comes with all the different sizes. So this is an M6 by 1.0 thread internal here, and it goes through the sheet metal like that.
Wow.
You put your little gun on there, and it basically pulls and squishes it together, the same as a rivet does. Yeah, like a rivet, and then you end up with a thread. So it's perfect for mounting anything that's not like super important. Like you wouldn't go mounting like big heavy things off of them, but for little stuff they work really well, and it's better than having to get a nut on the other side. So you don't have to get a nut and then hold a spanner and shit like that. You can just put a riv nut in it. So I'm going to put the 2 riv nuts on here, which will then go into the car like that, and then we just bolt it through the front, and that'll hold the plate to the car. I'll see if this plate can go on with the ECU bolted on, which I think it can. I won't riv nut them. I'll just use the bolts that they give you. But if the plate and the ECU can't all go into the car together as one, then I'll riv nut these 2. That way you put the plate in, bolt it in, then you can just bolt the ECU straight on. You don't have to try and get nuts behind it. But that's the fun part. You get heaps of different guns too. These right angle ones, not the right angle ones, these like twin handle ones are really good when you start doing bigger threads. Like if you start doing like M10s and stuff like that, because they can get quite hard to actually squeeze. You can also get right angled ones to get in like tighter spaces. You can get electric ones, you can get pneumatic ones. Pretty fancy, if you ask me. You just got to make sure you don't pull them too hard, because you can just pull the threads clean out of them. You can also get like the riv nuts themselves. You can get aluminium ones, or you can get steel ones. The aluminium ones are useless, don't get them.
Okay.
Don't do it. Dane.
What am I not doing, huh?
Aluminium riv nuts. Useless. Andy got us a bag of them once, and I sent him away. I said, you go back to that shop and you take them back. When we started building this car, when we first did this car before it was painted and panel painted everything, this was a manual chassis, and now it's getting an auto. So behind or next to the brake booster here, there's normally the boss for the clutch master cylinder. So what we did before we got it all panel and painted, we cut that out and we put it like a recessed box in there, which is what you can see now. I don't know if you just filmed that well enough or not, but anyway, basically there's a recessed box. And so the plan was back then, way back then when we thought about it, was that's where the wiring harness was going to come through on a bulkhead. So that it was like basically like a super tidy spot for it to come through, and basically like utilised a piece of the firewall that sort of wasn't going to be used anymore. There was either going to be a hole there, or it was just going to be patched, or we could like use it for something, if that makes sense. So we did that back then, and it's all painted now. So in a perfect world, we would have drilled the hole for it back then, but obviously if we drilled the hole for it back then and then we changed our mind as to what we were going to use now, it'd kind of be a bit of it. So I'm going to drill the hole for the bulkhead now. I'm drilling it from the inside, obviously, because I can't get to it here, but I'm just going to mask it up. I'm going to run the small drill bit through first, the center drill bit, and then I'm going to put the actual hole saw through. I did just heat the paint up with a heat gun a little bit to try and get it a little bit softer, so hopefully we don't get any cracking. But it may still crack, but hopefully not. The whole idea behind the bulkhead is that all of the engine harness wiring, so pretty much any sensor or anything that's attached to the engine that has wiring goes to it, will be part of this bulkhead connector, so that if you have to pull the engine out for whatever reason, rather than unplugging every single thing off of the engine, you'll just undo the one main connector, the one main bulkhead, and then all of the wiring will stay on the engine. You pull the engine out and then you can pull it off when it's out of the car, and super easy to get to. It's also just like a super tidy way of doing things through firewalls. A bulkhead will always look better than just like a grommet with wire passing through it. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It still looks good, but this is kind of just like the next level of tidy wiring, I guess you'd say. Go bore a hole through it, eh? Do you want to drill the hole, Dylan?
Yeah.
That was so enthusiastic.
Is this the most effective method?
I think so, because no matter how big of a bench you've got, you're always going to run out of bench, but you're never going to run out of floor, are you?
He loves working on the floor.
I do quite, I'm pretty good on that. This is a Nexus R5 universal harness on the floor. This is pretty much how it comes, essentially, but bundled up much nicer. I have unbundled it and sprawled it across the floor. Pretty much what I'm doing, we just got the Nexus mounted, assuming you just saw that. So the Nexus is mounted. Now pretty much what I'm doing is I've written down a list of all my engine sensors, and because we're doing this one a little bit differently, we're doing the bulkhead that you saw as well. I'm basically going to make I'm separating everything that's going to be attached to the engine. So that's what I've started doing over here. Not that you can tell, but I can tell, so that's all right. That's basically going to be everything that goes to the engine, which that will all go to the one bulkhead connector. It'll go through the firewall, and then on the other side of the bulkhead connector, it'll go boom, bulkhead to every sensor on the engine. So when you pull the engine out, you just undo the one connector and it'll all come out. Everything else, I'm just going to leave inside the cabin for now until, basically until I've done the engine harness. So I'm going to do the engine harness first, and then there'll be some, a couple gearbox things to do. There'll be some, what else is there going to be? There's going to be like a few random little triggers and DPOs and stuff like that I've got to run for the Mac valve, for the power steering. He's going to have an AES valve, so like a exhaust cutout valve. So there'll be a few other little things that I'll have to wire other than the engine harness, but for the most part, the body harness is all working. The engine harness will all be taken care of, and then it'll just be all the other little things. Pretty much the way that I go about it is I like to lay the harness out in front of me. What I did first with the Nexus, I don't know if you would have actually seen it, but basically I like to plug everything into the Nexus and get it in the car and sitting where it's going to go, because you've obviously got a lot, like you look here, this is a lot of wires, and all those wires go to the same place. They go to the ECU, okay? So you need them to sit nicely attached to the ECU. The ECU can't just fit. There's got to be room for the wires to get to the ECU and to get wherever they need to go. So I like to get it all plugged into the ECU, sat in the car, then I start to make like a home for the ECU essentially, like where it's going to fit, make sure it fits nicely, everything like that, make a bracket. So now the ECU is completely mounted and permanent. It's not going anywhere from where it is now under the glove box there. And I know that my wires all fit, the loom will all fit and plug into the ECU nicely. So basically from here, I then move on to separating everything out of the harness that I am going to use in the different parts of the car. So separating the engine bay harness, because I know everything that's going to go into the engine bay, and then once I've done the engine bay, I'll do some cab stuff, because I'll run a small harness down to the transmission, and there'll be a few things that run to the back of the car for fuel pumps and stuff like that. So pretty much what I do is just put it on the floor, literally, because it's the biggest workbench you can get. Put it on the floor, start to separate everything out and start getting it all grouped to where it's going to go. That way it's a little bit less daunting. You know where some wires, you know that these bunch of wires are going to the engine bay, and you know these bunch of wires are going to the back of the car and stuff like that. And it just starts to make more and more sense the more you separate it. And then you just go through again, separate it into each sensor, again into each connector, blah, 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 blah. It's a very methodical process. You just go step by step. It probably looks very daunting to a lot of people, and I mean it still is daunting. There's a lot of wires on the ground, but pretty much all you do is just follow a step-by-step procedure, and you can't really get it wrong. It's very simple. It's just take this wire from here and put it to here, and if you follow the process, it's pretty easy. What we've got is we have all of our yellow wires in this little bunch here. These are all our ignition wires. These are all our injection wires. These two wires here are for our drive-by-wire throttle body, along with these two wires. And there will also be two more wires that go with them. But pretty much the process, all you do is basically pick one of your sensors. So if we do, I'll do a super easy sensor because it's the easiest one. We'll do coolant. So coolant temp, most of them are most if not all of them are a 2-wire resistance sensor. So all you need is, in Haltech terms, you need an AVI and you need a sensor ground. So all that means is basically a signal wire and a ground wire. So if we just go to our diagram and we pick one that will be nice and easy, because the first two, we'll go AVI 3 if it's in our harness. So AVI 3, Haltech diagrams, if nobody's ever played with them, they are super, super easy. They're basically, I don't know how you can make it simpler than they do. Basically, look at the chart. If you didn't understand anything at all, here's what you do. Basically, you have a coolant temp sensor and you need to wire it, right? You go Haltech coolant temp sensor, you'd pull it up, you'd look at the wiring diagram, it'd say connection, it'd say pin 1, AVI, pin 2, signal ground. So then you come to your Haltech, you go AVI, look at all these AVIs I've got. So in this little section here, I've got 11. So I can pick up from AVI 1 to AVI 11 if I really wanted to. I'm using the first two already, so we'll go AVI 3, and then it tells you what wire color it is. So it's white and gray. So pretty much you come to here, you find the white and grey wire, which you know is AVI 3, you pull it out of your harness, and then you get a black and white wire, which is your signal ground wire, and you put those together over at your coolant temp sensor, and that's it. If you can match up colours, if you're colourblind, you might struggle. Not going to lie.
So what if I'm looking for a white and grey wire and I get a grey and white wire?
That can happen. It's possible. Dane does it all the time.
Not all the time.
Just once. Yeah. That's entirely possible. So if you can match colours up, look, there is some dodgy ones. There's like these ones. So if look at these are my favourite ones. So one of these is yellow and one of these is light yellow.
Put it in the comments, which one's which.
Yeah. So it can be a little bit iffy at times, but Haltech's very good. They use all the different colours. So all you got to do, you don't have to trace this wire back to this pin. It's so simple. You just find the colour, run it to where you need it, put a connector on it. So we'll go AVI 3. I don't actually know if AVI 3 will be in this section because they do have like a cabin section there. So it may be in there, but we'll see if it's in here. So pretty much literally all we do, white and grey, we go through here. We know that green isn't grey. Lots of greens. This is white. What are you, white and purple? That's not it. There it is there, white and grey. Look at that, boom. White and grey. So this is our AVI 3 wire. We grab it, out of the harness, and we put it over with the rest of the wires that are going to go to the engine. I like to try and get it to the top as much as I can, so that you don't end up with like a big knot where they start to separate. So then we got AVI3 over there, and then just because it makes it easier, I just run a separate signal ground to every single one. You could just splice them. You could just run the one signal ground into the engine bay and splice them all, but Haltech give you pretty much every single signal ground or 5-volt reference you'd need. They give you a bunch in the harness already, so I just grab them. It's easier. They've already done the splicing for you. So there you go. There's our 2 coolant temp wires. So in Haltech, black with a white trace is always a signal ground, and then we've got our white wire with a grey trace, which is our AVI wire, which is our analog voltage input. So we'll run those to our coolant temp sensor, and then again with Haltech stuff, with the Nexus specifically, they have a selectable pull-up on every single AVI, which means if anybody's played with earlier Haltechs or played with any ECU wiring, you'd know that something like this would usually require a pull-up resistor, and the Nexuses we're very lucky that they have a switchable resistor built into the ECU that we can do through the software, so we don't have to, and they have that on every AVI, I should mention. So in a Nexus, every single AVI has a switchable resistor, so you don't have to wire them externally into the harness anymore, and you don't have to be concerned about if you're putting temperature sensors on the right channels, because with a Nexus you can do anything, which makes it much simpler for me because I don't have to think about extra things. So that was coolant temp. So, and then what we do, because they give us a cool little diagram, we just write coolant in the notes section, and then we know that AVI3 is our coolant temp sensor, so later on when we go set up the ECU, we just run down the list, go boom, 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 assign it all in the ECU, and we're off to the races. That was more informative than it was meant to be, but you're welcome. All right, so oil pressure, so a pressure sensor works a little bit differently. They don't work off resistance. They generally supply their own voltage. So a pressure sensor is usually going to be a 3-wire sensor, possibly 4, depending on if you are using a pressure and temperature sensor. So in this one, we're going to do an oil pressure and temperature sensor. So it's a Bosch combo sensor. It runs, or it reads temperature and it reads pressure. So it is actually a 4-wire sensor, 3 for the pressure side of things, or technically 2, but it shares, I don't know, 4, basically 4 wires. So the pressure side of things uses a 5-volt, a ground and a signal, and then the temperature uses a signal and the same ground as it's a common ground, it's a common signal ground. So we need a 5-volt, pretty much every single sensor on an engine is 5-volt. Possibly there are some 8-volt sensors, but most like pressure sensors on an engine will be 5-volt, like map sensors, fuel pressure, oil pressure. Did I say fuel pressure? Yeah. Fuel pressure twice, yeah. Coolant pressure. They will all be 5-volt sensors. So in a Haltech harness, orange is our 5-volt wire, so we know we're going to need a 5-volt. We know we're going to need a signal ground. 5-volt, our signal ground, and then we need our 2 signal wires. One will be for pressure and one will be for temperature. So we'll just pick 2 that are next to each other. So we're going to go AVI5 and AVI6, which should be white green and white orange. So again, all we do is match the colours up. All right, this is theoretically all the wires you need for your engine to run, is those ones. And then...
Is that the same for any engine? Doesn't matter?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. For the vast majority. Yeah, and then that's basically all your sensors on the engine. Or your most common sensors anyway. So this is oil pressure, oil temperature, coolant temperature, intake air temperature, and map sensor. That is it. So that is going to be our engine harness. That's it. We've got 9 pins in, 9 of 41. First 6 went really easy. The last 3 have been a little bit of a pain in the ass. I think basically what's happening is the alignment between the rubber grommet and the 2 halves of the connector is slightly out, so it kind of goes like halfway and then stops, and then you got to kind of like play with it a little bit, and then you get it 3/4 of the way, and then you pin it the rest of the way with the tool. But the first 5 or 6 were easy as. They lined up perfect, so I don't know if maybe I need to just try and tweak it a little bit, but again, it's not too bad. I'm starting to figure it out now, but a little bit of WD-40 on the wire and on the tool helps it to sort of slip through. So. So I finally got this all pinned and in the connector. Not my most favourite task I've ever done, I'm not going to lie. Some of the pins just, I don't know what it is, didn't want to seat, but we got a couple spares there. But they're all in, which is good. So yeah, I'm going to heat shrink down to the sleeve now, and then this just pops up into that hole right there. That's why it doesn't have a 90-degree boot or anything off it. It's just, I needed it to come straight off of the hole. So there's a bit of extra length in this line too, so I can it'll basically come off and then go sort of where is it? It'll come sort of off that hole and come over sort of a little bit this way, and then attach to this stuff and go under. So it's up in there and bolted in, and everything run fairly permanently. So pretty much now I'm going to work on the other half of that connector, which is here. So pretty much pin this half so that it is all pinned the exact same, obviously, and then I can twist it on to the engine bay, and then I can work on the engine harness from there. So hopefully this one goes a bit smoother, and if not, I will see you in another 3 hours when I finish this one. Alright, so I got the other side of this bulkhead connector terminated and all filled out. Wires are all in there. Just got them sort of separated into what they're actually going to be with when they go into the engine harness. So that's injector wiring, coil wiring, rubber wire, stuff like that. It's all separated down here. But the reason that I've got it out of the car still, or not out of the car, out of the little pocket that it goes, the little hole that it goes in, is I just want to go through and I want to basically grab each end of these wires here and put the multimeter on it, and then I want to back probe the other side of this connector and make sure that I have continuity through the connector and the color matches on each side, so that I know 150 million% that I've got this pinned exactly right and I don't have a wire in the wrong spot, because all it really takes is to have one wire in the wrong spot and it's going to start just messing with a lot of different things. So I've got the harness mostly roughed out. Basically, once I had all these connectors pinned, I just laid it through the engine bay, and then the process from there is very similar to how I would normally do it. The only difference is that I can just pull it out and pin everything on the bench. When the harness just runs through the firewall and isn't on a connector, it's a lot harder to pull the whole harness back through the car, especially in this thing, because it's got all the AC boxes and heaters and everything under the dash. Makes it way harder. So to just be able to disconnect it, and then now I can just pin it out and terminate it all on the bench is pretty sick, quite like that. It's a little bit more nerve-wracking because it's out of the car, so if I got any of the lengths wrong, I won't know until I put it back in the car, but we're just going to go with the presumption that I didn't get the lengths wrong. Get this all terminated now, I can wrap it all up. The only thing I won't wrap up for now is the coil and injector harness wiring. I'm just going to leave that out for the meantime until I've actually got the coil and injector harnesses in there. That's one thing I don't really want to guess. I'll just leave that. But everything else is ready to go. So I have just finished running all the battery cables for this thing to their actual final location. I've tested the body harness already with just sitting a battery in here and jumper leads and hooking it all up, jerry rigging it. But I've got the main power ran forward to the fuse box from the stud that I've got in the kick panel here. So that goes forwards to the fuse box, and then it comes up into the ECU also. I've just got them unplugged for the time being because I don't want to send power to the ECU just yet. And then I've got the main cable running back down the side through and into a circuit breaker here, and then onto the battery. So these are a manual resettable circuit breaker. So basically this also acts as an isolator if you want it to. So you can, ow, hello. These act as an isolator also. So if you're leaving the car for a while, you can just isolate that. And as long as you've got it wired, everything through the breaker, then it'll isolate the battery to the car. And yeah, your battery won't go flat or anything like that if you leave it for an extended period of time. It depends, obviously, if you wire that incorrectly. I see a lot of isolators wired where they don't actually have everything on the other side of the isolator, so it's basically useless, essentially. If you don't have everything wired on the switched side of the isolator, it won't actually do what it's supposed to do. So pretty much you need to go battery, isolator, and then everything has to be wired on the other side of the isolator, which is how I've got it here. Basically one terminal from the battery onto the isolator, out of the isolator, and everything is wired on that side of it. So the isolator, when I've said isolator like 50 times, when you've actually got this isolator broken, it means there is zero power going to the car anywhere. So but yeah, pretty much this is the first. We'll switch this on and hopefully nothing goes bang. It didn't. The indicators are on, and there's also an LED strip here which I didn't realise existed or worked, but there you go. The indicator or the hazards? It's the hazards. There we go. Cool. So all that works. Interior lights on. Sweet. And nothing exploded, so that's cool. Everything, I mean, all I did was run 2 extra cables really, but shouldn't be surprised. Battery's in, battery's mounted. This will all get recarpeted and trimmed and all that sort of stuff. Little helpful hint for anyone if you are installing a Haltech, which most of you probably aren't, but if you are, or if you care, or even if you don't care, I'm going to tell you anyway. Basically, any Haltech requires battery power and ignition power. So the battery power is always running to the ECU. It will always have power there. It will always have 12 volt. And then the ignition power is your switched power, which comes from your key barrel, which, where the fuck is my key for one? I found the key. Everyone stop looking. Juddy left it in the boot. Didn't ya? So, yeah, I don't even know where I was up to, but basically, so 12 volt going to your ECU, you need to have a ignition source going to it to actually tell the ECU to turn on and off. So this is what you'd call an ignition. In Nissans and probably many other cars, they have like a two-stage ignition. So well, technically 3. You've basically got accessories, ignition, and then you've got crank. But there is 2 ignitions: one that stays on while you crank, and one that turns off while you crank. You got to make sure that you get the right one, and you get the one that stays on continuously when you go from ignition to crank. Otherwise your ECU will reset and it'll take longer to start the car. It'll also mean if you've got a dash, the dash will cycle and turn on and off and stuff like that. So the way basically you test it, we want to find ignition, and then once we've found ignition, we want to make sure that that ignition stays on while we turn the key to crank. If it resets or drops out for a little bit, you got to make sure that you get the other ignition, which will be the constant ignition, which is the one that you want. And again, I've said ignition like 50 times, but we got it just over 12 volts. And so if we turn the key to off, we lose power, which is good. Then we go click on 1 to accessories. We've got nothing, perfect. Click onto 2, which is our ignition. And then if you listen, we go to our 3rd crank position. And you can see that the voltage doesn't turn off. It does drop slightly, because there's some relays clicking and stuff like that, but it never turns off, which is what we want to see. So in this case, it is our red with black wire. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, red and black, that's the wire we want. So we're going to hook that up to our ignition source for our ECU, and then yeah, we can power our ECU on. Yeah, Rasputin.
Yeah.
It clicked.
Yeah,
it made it.
It clicked.
Didn't it? Where went it going? There we go. Click. Nice. That was nice.
Oh, I saw that one.
Did you enjoy that one?
That was good, I could see.
That was nice. And then you ready for this one? It's not too bad. Click. That's nice. I like that. Click clack. Bomb-de clat. Okay, engine harness is in. Engine harness is in the car and all but plugged in. There has been all but plugged in. All but plugged in is what I was getting at. There has been a little hold up on a couple of little things, but that hasn't stopped us from actually getting the harness in and plugging it all in. So that is all done. You probably also noticed we've got the lovely carbon cooling panel on the front. Maybe you didn't notice. Now you have. Here it is. Ooh. All right. Carbon cooling panel also have the radiator and the shroud painted black, and they are back in there. So that's all looking really good. The wiring for the majority of the vehicle is done. I am just about to start putting in the dash, so we'll do a little bit of dash wiring. There's not too much involved in that, it's not too in depth, but just about to start doing that. And then once the dash is in, I've got a couple transmission cooler lines to finish off, a couple little lines up here to finish off the radiator, and we'll be putting fluids in this thing, powering up the ECU, setting up the ECU, setting up the TCU, and starting the car for the first time. So all of this should be in the next episode. Might not be next week, but it'll be the next episode of Mitch's car. So if you're following along with this car, the next episode, surely going to be a banger. Very exciting to actually have this thing running. He just ate Mega Ring and now he's eating chips. Yeah, super exciting to we're going to actually hear this thing make some noise. We are waiting on a tail shaft. We got the tail shaft measured up today, so hopefully we can get that back before that video goes out, so that we'll actually be able to do some driving and go through some gears and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, don't forget this weekend, the 11th, is the cutoff for all the pre-orders for the merch. So if you have been thinking about getting anything, make sure you jump on and do it in the next few days, because it'll be midnight. Sunday night it'll cut off and that'll be done. You will not be able to order any of the pre-order stuff. So if you've been looking at it, get on there now and do it. Thanks for watching the video. Like, comment and subscribe. Thank you all once again for 20,000 subscribers. It's been pretty unreal to see you all grow. That's the trend of the subscribers, as Stu says. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Perfect.
Yeah.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.